All right, guys, let's see where what I did off camera. I did some of this stuff. I got this all seam sealed. I let that sit outside all day, let it kind of dry. It's kind of warmer right now, warm enough to where stuff dries, not like it is back east. So some of that dried pretty good, actually it did. And how I did that is I put it in there and then I used like regular mineral spirits. That's real mineral spirits, not California mineral spirits. Shh, don't tell anybody. Keep some of that around. You got to have it. People think you can do without it. That's just ridiculous. But anyway, so I've got this. I used mineral spirits and a rag because the stuff is oil based. It would probably thin better with urethane reducer. It doesn't really. It kind of semi takes it off, but it doesn't react with the primer. So that's why I wanted to use mineral spirits. That's why you have that kind of thing, not because you're trying to save emissions. It's actually the only thing it'll work. So I got all this all seam sealed pretty good, and it's not sticky, which is cool because I use that reducer, or not reducer, but the paint thinner or mineral spirits, and cleaned off everything with a shop towel, one of those blue shop towels. And now I can let this dry maybe another day. I just don't like it to be sticky, because if it's all sticky, then all the dirt and everything sticks to it. So I'm gonna let it dry pretty good, and then I'm gonna hit it with a spray can primer so that nothing will stick in there. And then, so I was doing some of that stuff. I'm doing a little bit of stuff here, getting these ready. I got these on, of course, from last time. If you saw the video, the end of the video, of course, doesn't line up right. So I'll work on that. Here's my little method here, and my ladder. I'll push down on that a little bit. Maybe I can get that thing to flip up a little bit more. I don't know if I will. I gotta put some real weight on there. So maybe I can do that. I'll make sure my hinges, my bolts are on there really good. Then we'll start doing maybe some before and after on some of these things here. I'm gonna show you some of this stuff that I can't film. I think it's gonna be too hard to film that, me doing the filler on those, so I'll probably just show you before and after. And be kind of fun. I'm still deciding what to do. I don't know. I think I'm just thinking about just prepping everything, getting everything just about ready, and then just final sand the inside, paint it, final sand the outside, paint it, done. That's what I'm thinking about at this point. Might be the easiest way out. So there's a lot of little stuff to do though. I don't know how frustrated I'll get doing all that stuff. I may just stop and just paint the inside. I don't know. We'll have to see later in the video. Talk to you guys a little bit later. We'll keep working. All right, guys, let's talk about blocking. I've got some of the guys, somebody was asking, they said, man, I can never get mine to turn out right. Maybe you could show us how to do the blocking part of it. And this is not how I normally do it, okay? because I'm doing it the extra fast way. But basically, there's basically a couple different systems that people use. You know, and I've done them all, and they all work and everything. One is that a lot of guys will start with 180, okay, and then they'll finish out with 320. Okay, that's the old school way we did everything. And then today, you know, you'll go ahead and sand it again with 400 or 600. 400 for single coat, for single stage everything, and 600 for metallics. All right, that's usually how it's done. But there's that way. That's I call that the you know, the traditional way. 180, 320, and you know, 400 or 600. Okay. Then there's the shortcut way. Okay, which is what I usually do. And well, when I'm doing full blocking, or if I'm doing really nice, really nice work, I'll do 150, which is cuts faster, and then I'll do I'll use 220, and then I'll go straight to paint. So all my stuff I've painted so far, I've done with only 220 finish sand, and that's because I'm also using solid colors. If I was using metallics, I'd be a little more conscious. Maybe I'd shoot another coat of primer, or use sealer, and then go over it again with 600 grit to get rid of some of the metallics. I've done it without that though. I've even done it with going right over like 320, and then just going to not on water base. Obviously, you can't do that at all. That's all different. This is for solvent based products. Okay, if you're using water base, there's a whole other. You know, you got to go to 600. You'll have problems. I haven't done really any water base. I don't plan to, but you never know. I have some sitting there. Guy gave it to me, a friend of mine, who's a painter in a body shop. You do a lot of stuff the same. It's funny, you know, I did this back years ago, and a lot of stuff's still the same. But if you're really good and you practice and you take it takes a lot of experience, a lot of practice. A lot of guys that I know that are really do fantastic, beautiful work, do almost everything with the DA. So this stuff is for when you're first starting out, you're trying to learn how to block right. But when you get really good, you can start using the DA more and more, and then you'll find out how to hold that thing just right, and to get that DA nice and slow and just get it to move just right. And you can probably do most of your blocking with that, and depending on how nice you want to do it. I mean, I used to do Mercedes, BMWs, okay, and I did 90% of my blocking with a DA, and I didn't have any complaints ever on wavy bodywork. And people were just as picky then as they were now. Believe me, I used to redo other guys' work because it wasn't good enough, and I did it with the DA. I remember doing this body line of BMW, and this. I was there, and as an interim painter, and the new painter came in, and I was prepping this car, and he goes, "Oh, you'll never get that look right." And I go, "Watch." I said, "When I'm done, it's going to look right." And I'm done. I was done. He looked at it, and he goes, "Man, I can't believe you do that with a day." I said, "Okay, now you know. It can be done." All right. And he was way older than me. I was only like 21 or 22. So anyway, this is my longboard. I've had this for 40 years. And I don't use it very much. They have better, fancier ones. I still don't want to get one because I don't care to use them. I don't want to do that kind of work. I don't want to. If I have to use a longboard, forget it. I'm not going to do it. But if you start out with doing work, you should be using a nice longboard to where you get good with this, so you know what you're looking at when you use a DA. So you start out using longboards. Little by little, you're going to find yourself using more and more DA. So the method is to go this way and go this way. All right, everybody know that one? You notice I got a nice big high spot right there. All right, where I started. And you can use a straight edge and try and get it perfect, but most of the time you're creating an illusion. So you wanted to get it to be straight enough to where when you stand back, you can't see that wave. So, you know, some guys are doing really crazy work and they're getting it perfect, you know, but it's always been an illusion for most places. So you go this way and this And I believe I've got, on this one, I've only got, probably got 180. This was back when I was doing stuff the old school way, so it needs a new piece of paper. Let's put one on, I'll bring you guys back in. Yep, 180. This is actually stick-it paper, or what do they call it, PSA now. And they didn't have that back when I was young. That was the coolest thing when they came out with that. When I first started, it was, you had these clips on your board because that's all they had. They only had this paper that you put on there, and after about 4 or 5 times using it, the paper would start to come loose. Of course, now you know I don't use longboards. But the whole method is to go crisscross patterns. Now, where guys make the mistake when you're doing this stuff is a push on it. You're pushing on it hard, especially even a DA. If you're pushing on the DA, you have to just glide the DA over it and make it run the direction you're supposed to get it to go. But you just run the paper over it. You're not trying to push. Come guys, just push it on this thing. And yeah, you got to be patient. Using one of these things all day. So everything's crisscross. Sometimes you're going to go straight, but not very often. Most times you're going to be going crisscross. So you're trying to get, and you just keep going. I'm not going to do the whole thing like this, okay? You just keep going until you either have metal, Bondo, or black. Okay, and if you start going through and you start hitting, like if I start hitting metal right here, okay, that's my stopping point usually, and that's going to tell me that this is really low, and it probably could use glazing, or you could reprime it and keep doing that. You can just do multiple coats of primer. If you're doing that kind of thing, the polyester primer is probably better than the urethane for that. But there's issues with that, you know. If you use polyester primer, the reason that they got rid of a lot of stuff, they don't use it much anymore, is because it's not flexible and it cracks if you have any kind of panel stress. So, you know, it was the only thing I knew of, so I started using that again when I started doing this stuff more. And then guys were like, hey man, try the urethane. And I'm like, well, then I tried a few urethanes, and then I'll tell you, a lot of them are garbage. A lot of the urethanes are just garbage. But you know, Tamco's is really good. I mean, hers is a lot like, I mean, you can probably do everything you do with her primer that you can do with polyester. So you can load it up. You know, you can put a lot of coats on here. I only put on like 2 coats thinned or something like that on this, I think. So it doesn't have that much primer on it. So anyway, yeah, so now you can see here I got a little metal nib. Now you can decide at this point. I know I'm going to have some. I didn't do that great of a job. Okay, and you can decide at that point what I'll do is probably I'll get my pick hammer out and I'll knock that thing down and I'll keep sanding. And that's what's nice about the urethane primer, is it can take some flexibility in some of the newer fillers, where if you start hitting on the metal too much on the old fillers, sometimes you crack it, you know. You got to look out for that stuff. But the newer fillers, a lot of them are more flexible, especially EG47 has a little bit of flexibility in it. I think it's probably one of the best fillers for the money, cheaper one that works good. So anyway, but that's how you do it. The trick is not pushing on it. That's where guys make all the mistakes. I showed a guy, and I taught him from the ground up how to do body work. He'd never done body work. He was in the 9th grade in high school. Taught him everything. His car was so perfect. He got the cover of one of the magazines, and he did all the body work himself. He did all the work. He did everything the way I showed him, and then he became better at it than me. So, you know, some guys are better than me. I'm not expecting everybody to be better than everyone. I'm not, you know, but it just, you know, it takes practice and time and patience, and he had it and I didn't. And, you know, he just kept going with it. I mean, he made this bug look so perfect. It was the nicest paint job I've ever seen in my life. It was perfect. It was a really nice car, and I painted it once, and then he didn't like the color. Another guy came and painted it afterwards, and I think he wanted warranty on paint too. But it was the body work really was where all the work was. The paint's no big deal. Spray it on, yeah, that's part of it, but the body work was the big deal. Getting all the prep right. So anyway, that's how you do your blocking. If you just keep doing it that way, you find that you'll get it out. I find that too slow. I'll do a little bit with the DA here, and I'll show you how I do it. And then same thing. It's basically the same system, but you have a smaller area. Okay. Now, the thing what I used to do is I used to use one of these. Okay. I could do one of these, and then I would use one of these. And guys go, this is too small of a block. You can't make it look good with this. When I used to do Mercedes, BMW, I used to use one of these with 400 grit for the final. And there was no waves. There was nothing. There was nothing in there. You can find anything on that whole car. It just looked like glass going right across it. It's all in how you use it. And like I said, the way I would use it when I got done, that would just go like this. Really, you don't push on it. You just kind of let it run over it. And just keep going until you're done. That was your final thing you did. You just went over the whole thing like that, and it would come out really, really nice. So I'd use a DA, and then I'd use one of these, and that was it. That's all I'd use. And, I passed, I worked on Mercedes, BMW, Rolls-Royce, Alfa Romeos. I'm trying to think of it. We never had a Ferrari come in, but I did a lot of Porsches, that kind of, high-end cars. They were all big money cars, and I did them all the time, and not one of those ever had a complaint, Yeah. The only time you get a complaint, you get a cheap car. The cheap car would come in, you cut some corners on it, and they'd notice, and they'd come back and get you, I remember working a K car, and the guy's like, hey, there's a piece of dirt there. I'm like, yeah, so what? It's a piece of crap. Anyway, we'll keep moving. And one more thing I didn't mention is the finer the paper, the smoother and the straighter you can get it, up to an extent. When you're going with 600, it's kind of up to about 400 grit. So if you do a blocking, let's say you block your car, you start out with 150. You go through and you do your rough stuff. You go back and and then you go to a 180, then you go to a 220, and then you go to 320 and 400, and you finish all your blocking with 400. It's going to come out straighter looking. That's just because you're getting finer things out. So the finer the paper, to an extent, again, 400 grit is about the max. I mean, anything finer than that, trying to do blocking with, you're really not going to get much out that you're not going to see. So up to about 400 grit, it comes out straighter. So when I did my Mercedes, BMWs, and all that stuff, when I worked at a shop that did saddleback BMW, other cars, and we did all those saddleback BMWs, and I worked there, and whenever I did their prep, everything I finished with 400 grit, and then I would go to to paint after that, because back then the material was a little thicker, and you could feel scratches with, you didn't have sanding scratch issues with that, with Lasomax. So anyway, let's keep moving. I'll show you the DA. I'm going to use 150. Okay. Then I'm going to go. Then I'm just going to do 150, and then I'm going to reprime. So that's how I'm going to do it. But and then I'm going to do the final with 220, and I won't be doing that in this video. But that's how I usually do mine now. It's faster. You don't get quite the results you do, but it comes out pretty good. It doesn't come out terrible. It comes out pretty nice. So anyway, I'll do some DA. I'll be right back. You guys back in. Upgrade to one of these pads. Alright, so you guys see there's some nips here. Feel them? You can feel them, they're there. You know, my Bondo's a little bit, the filler's a little high. Take your hammer. Hammer mark so I can feel it better. Actually, that one's gone. Feel the filler is a little bit. Put your whole hand on it and rub it. I still feel waves a little bit, just a little bit. And then what you get good at is mastering, knowing what's going to show up, what isn't. Usually, if it's got black like that, it's pretty much going to show up. So you got to get all those to go away. This, yeah, if you look at it at an angle, you'll see it, but you know, overall it's going to look pretty smooth. So like I said, that's where you draw the line, is you just you do it, and then you may not have it be perfect, but you're looking for that illusion to get your to get it to look perfect. You know, people just walk up and just think they don't notice that, you know. And if it's down low on the car, that's less obvious, can show than if it's up high. If it's right at your waist level, that's where you're going to see most. And on your hood, you can see almost anything on a hood, and you can see almost anything above your waist. So when I do stuff, when I'm doing below my waist, like down here, I'm not going to get it quite as nice as if it's right up where I'm at. You know, that's the methods that we used to use. And you know, some of them you couldn't even see the stuff down low. You have a wave down there, you'd be like, hey, I know it's there, I can feel it. And you paint it and you go, man, I can't even see it. So that's all practice. That takes years of experience to learn. So, or it didn't really take me that many years. It just took me a lot of paint jobs, so a lot of hard work. So anyway, that's how I do mine. Again, you can do it however you want. I'm just showing you how I do it, and it comes out pretty good. You'll see later. You know, I could make it look perfect if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that. It just takes too much time. I'd be on this thing, especially. I'd be on this thing for months and months, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather do other things with my time than that. So anyway, that's how I do it. All right, guys, so what I do now is I've done the whole panel. I'll go through now and I'm going to start mixing up glazing, and I'll show you what I use real quick. I use this USC AG47 in this Pro Glaze. I'll mix these two together for deeper fills because there's a lot of deeper ones on this. If it's just really minor stuff, I'll just use the Pro Glaze by itself. The Pro Glaze sands just a little bit faster than the AG47, and when you mix them together, it sands really fast and nice with 150. Comes out really smooth and sands super fast. And unlike a lot of glazing, some of the glazings out there are really slow to sand. They shape really nice, but they're really slow to sand. This stuff is really fast sanding, so I like it. I haven't tried that many others. Once I probably try some of those. There's some other ones I heard some of the U-Pole products sand really fast too, but I never tried them. This one works so good that I haven't found something else that I want to try because it's really fast. So I'll go through and just glaze every low spot. So like right here, you can see that frame. I can't tell if you can. I'm gonna say you can for sure. This spot is really low, okay? There's a low spot right here. See the black, okay? And then all along under this very edge, there's little edgy stuff along here, which you may or may not be able to see all along here. So I'm just gonna put a little coat of that across there. So I haven't caulked under here yet. And then I got all my little welds along the bottom. So it's going to take a lot of glazing on this panel. You know, in fact, most of them are pretty rough like this. So, you know, depending on the car, this one here, because it made a lot of panels and they got beat a lot and stuff like that, it's got a lot more glazing than some other ones. So, you know, it all depends on the car. Some have a lot more than others. And so it takes a lot of mixing and spreading. So at this time, I'll just bring you guys back in probably, but I'm just going to glaze a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's going to take me several hours and just mixing up and spreading and mixing up, spreading. And I'll probably sand another panel maybe while I'm doing that. That's usually what I'll do, is I'll get one ready and I'll just start glazing it up. And then, you know, then I'll move to another panel, sand it, and I'll finish this one out with glazing. Then I'll come back to this one, sand it down and finish it and prime it. You know, I kind of want to finish one and prime it as I go so that you feel like you got somewhere. So I always try to do one panel at a time, but I'll usually get ahead one panel sanding, you know, while I'm glazing the other. So that's usually how I do it. All right, so I got some of these sanded here. I got that one done. Just kind of glazed over those real quick just to use I take my old paper and then I just use that to just burnish the top because sometimes it'll dull your paper. The other thing I forgot to mention is when you're doing blocking, you want to use good sharp paper. If your paper is dull, as soon as it starts to lose its cut a little bit, replace it, because what happens is you're just polishing it when you're using, you know, paper that isn't cutting. So you always want to keep changing your paper. So a good way to save money is this stuff right here. The Sunmite is cheap, and it has a pretty good cut life, where a lot of times people will go with 3M because 3M has the longest cut life actually. You know, it'll keep cutting for a lot longer, but it's really expensive. So this stuff is a good compromise. It's kind of right in the middle. They have this Sunmite. They have this stuff, Mirka. It used to be really good. I don't know. I don't think it's quite as good as it used to be, Mirka. And I use hook loop. Some of you guys use the PSA, which is cheaper, and it works. Actually, if you're doing DA blocking and you really want a perfect looking job, the hook loop actually works a little bit better, and it's because it's flatter. You know, this has a little bit of cushion to it because of the hook loop. So you lose a little bit there, but it's nice when you're doing your corners and stuff like that. Your paper doesn't start to tear up. So I don't know, I like it better. They lose a little bit of quality, but I'll take that. I don't care. And this stuff's not too bad either. This Dura Gold. I don't know if maybe they're the same. I mean, it's like the same as these are almost. Like, it looks like even the same stuff. But these are on Amazon and they're cheap. So if you guys need to order stuff, you're not having a body shop supply near you. This one, and the Carrera is a good little body shop. He's in between Riverside and Body Shop Supply. Carrera Body Shop Supply. He's between Riverside and Corona on Magnolia Avenue, right at Buchanan. So if you know where that is. Yeah, the biggest mistake you can make is to not change your paper enough. If you don't change your paper, you lose your cut. Then your bodywork comes out wavy all the time. So I just go through boxes of sandpaper. I don't even calculate it. It's like I'll go through like 10 sheets doing this part right here, and that's just what it takes. I don't care. I just don't want to. I want it to come out. I'm gonna get the most for my time, because the difference in price. You're talking about when you have, see, that's about $20 a box or a little less, or something like that, for 50. It's really not that much money when it comes down to it. And but when you're using like 3M or something like that, it's about twice that. So it's it's better off to try and find the medium and just go through the paper. Don't even just use a sheet. As soon as it starts to lose a little bit of cut, take it off, put another one on, just go through it. So that's that for that. Right, let's take a look here. How about that line? Let's get a more point of view here. Yeah, it looks all right. A few flaws in there. Remember, this was grafted on the grafted. Those vents were grafted in. Of course, they're a little crooked too. Something's crooked there, but well, it's actually this one here. I ground it, the edge, it came up, so it looks like that vent's going uphill, but it's not. It's actually just the edge of it because it was all rusted on the edge. So good enough. I'll just go through and do one more sand on it, and then call it when it's done. I'm just gonna put a little primer on there to look at it, and then see what stuff I miss. I'll just kind of do a little bit more, hand sand it real quick, and then prime the whole thing with a heavier primer. And look at that, how much looked that a lot better there. That's coming along. And when it gets to this point where you got all those the filler showing like that, it's best to just go ahead and stop and start priming, and then catch one more coat and then block again. But I'm going to do probably 2 or 3 coats of primer on there, and then I'm just going to go right to 220 and then spot prime whatever's left, and that'll be paint at that point. I'm not going to do another block on the whole thing. I kind of went over this already twice, I think, right here. Just I went over it once real quick with primer, and then I sanded that, primed it once, and then, you know, then I glazed it now. So it really needs another heavy coat of primer though, over all of it. I'll take a look at some more stuff in a second. Right, so this method here is the filler method. Back years ago, I used to use these saw blades, and somebody reminded me about doing that. You know, I haven't replaced a lot of panels recently, and I just usually anymore, I've been doing them kind of the quick way. I used to do that with saw blade, and then that's why I have all those. I have tons of them. And then this is the factory replacement method. So normally, when you replace the panel, you fill the seam with seam sealer, which I got down there, and then wipe all the excess off with the paint thinner. Remember to read the label. It's got to say 100% mineral spirits. The other ones, the ones in California, say paint thinner, and they're not. They're acetone. That doesn't work. It's got to be mineral spirits from some place where it's legal. I don't know where. Arizona, Nevada. Oh, I didn't tell you to go there and get it. I think squirt a little primer on there in just a second. I'm gonna let that dry. You know, do that one so you can see how that looks. Either way, it looks all right. You know, or some guys just leave them like this, like that. I've done that before. You know, I don't really care. It's in a hurry. So that's just, I described it with a filler, and then I'll just sand. I would just take and sand a little bit in there, and then that's it. You know, but filling with seam sealer makes it look a little better. Let's see how it looks. So that's what the seam sealer filled there. Just a little primer on there, as you can see. Yeah, it looks good. Either way, this actually looks the best. You know, that looks like an original seam. You know, I don't really care. I'm just trying to show you guys so that you can see how to do yours. If you want to do them all with a saw blade and get them to dig it down in, you have the nice straight saw blade, and then, you know, use tape, get your line straight, and then sand it, taper it just a little bit on each side, and then sand it in the middle also with a sandpaper wrapped around a spreader, and that'll get you so that the very deepest part of the groove is really, really tight together, and then it kind of looks like it's tapering in. That looks more like original seams do. But in the body shops, when I worked there, that's how they did it. I always use seam sealer, and then we used to put the seam sealer on, the painters did, and then the body guys would do all the rest. Put it all on. We did all the dressing, make it look nice. And that's how it turned out. Yeah, it's all right. Today, the standards are a little bit different. They're way pickier on that stuff. It's just so insane. I mean, I've talked to the painters now, and they get paid. They charge the body shops, the insurance companies for, you know, 3 colors on the jams, you know, because the original now they just kind of shot paint inside the jambs, and the jambs are all different color, and they go, oh, to make it original you got to make the same. And we never did that. We just painted it all, and they go, oh well, it looks better than original, but nobody wanted it that they don't want it that way. They want it to look like it's never been in a wreck. That's all this stuff they do now. It's different. But yeah, you know, this is old school. We're just doing restoration. You do it however you want, you know, it doesn't matter. All right, so I got some sanding done up here. Of course, my camera was almost dead. It's still pretty low right now. What I'm going to do is show you right now. This is what we're looking at. I've got some filler on a few spots. I'm mixing a 50-50 mix. It makes it go a lot further, and it sands really easy. It works really well. Sticks really good. And then we'll take a look at it in a couple minutes, and I'll throw some primer in there. All right, so we look like this. I'm just trying to see if I got kind of the ballpark of those lines. Kind of got it. And then some of this stuff. The reason I'm doing this is because I just can't feel it. Because you got a square, right? There's like a thing that goes around there. It's kind of, yeah, you can see the bottom of it, right? I got the side. I did a lot of that with the DA, so it's kind of there. Well, looks like it's probably, yeah, let's do a little guide coat and resand it just to look at it. So that's kind of what, something like that you got to do, you know. I'm not going to get it perfect for sure. And it might actually kind of come out ballparked okay. I got my mask on, so anyway. I'm going to ventilate this place. Yeah, I'll just guide coat it real quick, and then I'll just let that set for a minute, for a while. Maybe come back tomorrow and look at it. Just do a real quick sand and see where it's at, and then try and call it at some point. And maybe I'll do it in here too by hand. Kind of get that to look pretty good. Yeah, I don't think that's going to turn out too bad. I was pretty worried about that thing, you know, not being able to see the square or the little X in there. I think it's going to turn out all right. I don't know. It's going to look wavy for sure. I'm not going to really spend that much time on it. But anyway, we'll come back into the next one. Take a look at that side too. Anyway, I've gotten this whole side's ready. I didn't want to prime it tonight. I'll just do it tomorrow. And then I've got the part of the nose, again off camera. I did this part. Got all this all done. I've got stuff filler on all the edges down here. So you need to sand it. Then I'll sand the nose. Make sure there's no dents in it. Then that'll be ready. So everything around this interior I want to have done. I'll probably just do all of the blocking. It's not going to take that long, really. Or just all of the, you know, I don't know. This is pretty wavy still. But, you know, it's not that bad. I don't know. I'll just have to just play that one by ear. I don't know what I'm going to do to it yet. I think I'll prime it one more time because it's just too bad when it's like this. You can't really play with it anymore. You got to just put more primer on it. So I'll put a bunch of more primer on this whole thing, and then we'll see if the whole thing can, you know, if I think it's going to make it, then I'll just, like I said, I'll just call it. I'll just say, okay, whatever it is, that's it. And then I just decide to paint it. And again, this looks pretty good over here. Not bad, just a little hand sanding to it. And then I'm going to just prime it one more time, and I think that'll be good. I still need to do the back, the other side, but I think these are done, if I recall correctly. So I've got to do this corner, this side, the wheel arches, and the roof. So not that much. I think that one's done, but then again, I got to do some bending to it, remember? the front corner is bent, so I haven't done that yet. I just started blocking over there because it was just something I wanted to do. So anyway, that's what I'll keep doing. Talk to you guys later. All right, guys, let's take a look here. Let's see. A little wavy. It might, most of that might come out with this primer. I put a third coat on off camera. I had some going, so I just went ahead and nailed it 3 times. So it should be pretty good. I might have to reprime it. I don't know on this part. This one, it's kind of on the edge too. This is bad. A little bit going on right here. I don't know what that is. I don't know. But you can kind of see the outline of the X now. And of course, like I said, around the top, it's going to get kind of muddy. It's not going to be like the nice little line that you see right here. You see that? You won't be able to see that line in the top. Because I didn't get it that right. You know, I wasn't planning on it. Yep. So this has got a little edgy stuff here. I got to clean up that. So maybe I can do that without having to reprime the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe. Then I went ahead and did these spot welds. The ones that were voided here. Got those cleaned up because those I would look pretty good. I want this part to look decent. That part, well, even that's going to be mostly covered up, isn't it? It covers up with the machine there. That part of it. So, yeah. It's got some little stuff. I had to clean up some stuff. There's a couple dents here. I actually used the spot welder, or whatever it's called, the welder, the little spot welding thing to clean it up. Yeah, then this is all done. I got a few little spot welds I got to clean up there. A little ugly spot right there, maybe. A little bit of filler. Then I'm gonna have to do something about that little line there. Fill that in somehow. I'll just do that all the way along. Clean that up, maybe give it another reprime on that. I don't know. Yeah, about like that, I guess. And this one looks pretty good. I say this dog leg is ready. That's about as ready as it's ever going to be. This jam, I don't think I'm going to cherry out the jams very much. I'm just going to kind of leave them like that. So, probably be all right. One more cleanup on some of the stuff. And then I got some gaps to fix up there. But this vent, look at that. Let's look at that. That looks pretty good for how bad it was. That's 100% grafted. That's grafted on the grafted on the grafted. There's like 3 or 4 pieces in that thing. So good enough. Gotta catch that edge. I'll get that with a hand sand. I didn't use much hand work around the corner edges. I just do that real quick by hand, and then that goes away. I'll do that when I catch the back. Then get that all ready. I don't know what the next video is going to be. We'll figure that out when I get to it. Just start filming something, and I feel like doing it, right? Then we'll get this thing done. This thing to paint. It'd be nice. Yeah. Not much more to do. Well, it's a lot, believe it or not, quite a bit. But it's compared to where we started, you know, it's a lot less. So anyway, all right, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Let's look around here, see if I can get something that looks good for a thumbnail, right? If I didn't have one already. Oh, the sun in my eyes on that side doesn't work. Let's try over here. Yeah, kind of. Well, let's see if we get back far enough. Get the left in there. I don't know if that works either. We'll just have to look at it on the computer and figure it out, right? All right, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let's see what you have to say.